everybody, and welcome back to the Newsfloor. My name is Valerie Lee, and I'm your host. We are meeting here on Wednesdays at 12 noon Pacific time every single week on the Lost Resort Twitch channel. I'm going to be going over all things dance, electronic, and nightlife. We start with news, headlines, and conversations about what's going on in the industry, what you need to know. We're also going to be listening to some of the best releases all across Beatport, Pete Tong's Essential New Tune, and of course Newsfloor picks, exclusive conversations on that end as well. And finally, we round up and gather some interviews and conversations with your favorite artists and people from around the world of rave. So thank you for joining us. Hopefully you've followed, maybe even subscribed by now, but if you haven't, be sure to click those buttons below. It's super fun here. There's so much good programming on Lost Resort. You don't want to miss it. Get those notifications. We have Lost Resort with Toki Monster. We have Schmoozin' with Soul Clap. And then, of course, news with yours truly. I really appreciated those that tuned in last week and got active in the chat. I really do love hearing about what you guys care about, what you guys think about all of these news stories, all of the conversations we're having. We're trying to bring you the best and most relevant news to keep you guys up to date every single week. But I want to hear from you, so please keep it up. This week, it is a super busy episode as always. Every week heading into the news, I'm almost wondering, is it going to be this week that things quiet down because there's no events, because the pandemic is happening, but it has proven time and time again to be exactly the opposite. This week in news, there is both good and bad because of the pandemic related to COVID-19. There are some events that are thinking about pushing back 2021 dates again that have already been delayed from 2020. But on the good news, there are events that are trying new things. They're trialing rapid COVID-19 testing, which could prove to become really important to bring live events back during this time. A new study has come out about live streaming, which we all know has kind of become the essential turn to for all of music, for artists. However, there is a study that is saying that live streaming could actually become an essential part of the music industry even beyond this era. And news on the technology front from Spotify and a mysterious announcement from Aphex Twin that we're going to get into. On the music side, there is a new tune from Defected that is on the top of the Beatport chart. Marcus Vogel and Adam Port have remixed Hot Chip, which is a great combination of names. Bicep, the new tune I haven't stopped listening to since it came out. That is going to be one of our Newsfloor top picks, along with a compilation from Coloring Lessons. So stay tuned for listens of that. For the circuit segment, I spoke to Patrick Whalen, who is the National Director of We Make Events. We're learning about what the organization is calling for and how you can help. And last but not least, on the catch-up, I spoke with my friend and talented producer Michael Brunn, who has been so busy achieving things this year. He's working with J Balvin. He got nominated for Latin Grammys, and we're going to get into all of that right here on this week's Newsfloor. Let's get right into the news right here on the Newsfloor. We are starting with Coachella, which may reportedly be planning to push back their 2021 dates yet again. Earlier last week, the rumors began to swirl that the festival was making plans to reschedule the upcoming April 2021 dates. They were considering, supposedly, the October 2021 date. As those who remember earlier this year in 2020, of course, those were the dates that were in question when Coachella became kind of the first major festival to need to consider moving the show because of COVID-19 and the pandemic. However, currently the festival has not confirmed any changes. They remain scheduled for April 9th through 11th and April 16th through 18th for the back-to-back weekends. Billboard has since reported that the rescheduling plans are far from a done deal, but a decision would be made after Election Day and before the end of the year. So it remains to be seen. There's still a possibility with the way things are going. Officials with both AEG and Live Nation say that they can't reopen until given the all clear by health officials, which might not take place until a vaccine is distributed widely to the public. So we'll keep an eye out to see if any changes come for Coachella 2021. On the tech side of things, Spotify has filed for a patent for personality tracking technology. It sounds a little Black Mirror, but it doesn't quite seem as scary as it sounds yet. Spotify was granted a US patent for methods and systems for personalizing user experiences based on user personality traits. So, the filing, which was originally submitted in November 2018, states that there is a need for systems and methods for personalizing media content in accordance with personality traits associated with the user. So that could mean that things change based on their mood, their favorite genres of music, and their demographic. and it would likely be used to promote content, typically audio advertising content on Spotify, but also potentially the content that you actually receive. It could be the music or the podcast content that is fed to you or recommended to you. And an interesting part of the patent filing included an example that kind of pointed to how the algorithm might change for users depending on how it determines your personality. So an example it gave was that if a personality trait is given to someone that they are extroverted, they might receive a tone of voice for advertisements or the platform that would be more upbeat, high-pitched, and more exciting, versus to someone who has been tagged as an introvert, the tone of voice that they receive might be more quiet or soft-toned to better tailor to different user experiences. So interesting to see. Nothing's been rolled out yet, but we'll be keeping an eye out to see how and if the platform of Spotify will change based on this patent. Aphex Twin billboards are appearing around the world. We have seen this kind of mysterious campaign before when Aphex Twin was scheduled to play at Coachella. Billboards and posters of a red version of the logo has popped up in London, Bristol, Berlin, and Los Angeles. And there's been a follow-up from Novation, which is a music and tech gear company, that additionally shared the photos on their Instagram, writing that more info would be coming October 20th, 2020, which has led to people speculating that Aphex Twin might be on board in the release of new music hardware or a sort of collaboration. Remains to be seen. We will see at the end of the month when that announcement goes live. The festival Primavera Sound is set to trial a pilot concert to test rapid COVID-19 tests. This is taking place in Barcelona and is meant to assess the efficacy of recently developed rapid result COVID-19 tests. How this is going to work is that they're putting together a 1,000-person clinical trial, which is taking place in the nightclub Sala Apollo at the end of October. They will compare two different tests. One is the new antigen detection test, which is meant to deliver results in 15 minutes, against the performance of the polymerase chain reaction, which is the PCR test, which has become the standard administered all throughout the pandemic so far. Half of the attendees will receive the PCR test and half will receive the rapid test, and after 8 days, the event will be tracked for another round of testing. If the rapid tests are proven effective, it could play a significant role in preventing the number of infection clusters stemming from events and large person gatherings before the vaccine becomes widely available. So we will be keeping an eye out to see how this trial concert goes, and we will see if Primavera Sound can deliver some good news to us during the times of a pandemic. However, following up is a little bit of good news from Berlin. The government has funded 40 clubs to celebrate the first ever day of club culture over there. A select 40 clubs in the city received 10,000 euros to celebrate Berlin's inaugural day of club culture. This was organized by Senator for Culture Klaus Lederer alongside the Club Commission Berlin. And the website states that the Day of Club Culture gives the award-winning clubs and collectives the opportunity to present themselves to the whole city and set an example of the diversity and liveliness of Berlin's club culture. The showcases took place on October 3rd. They were subject to COVID preventative guidelines, but attendees were granted permission to dance in select outdoor spaces that honored those guidelines. And the event celebrated at clubs like Paloma, Golden Gate, Chocolates, and more. A really exciting, kind of nice nod to appreciating the nightlife industry in Berlin. A new report points to live streams becoming a permanent part of the music industry cycle. Insights in the new Music 360 report that comes from MRC data shows that 47% of music listeners feel that it is important for the industry to offer live stream performances or virtual concerts, which is a good sign because that means that the live stream business, which of course has been kind of accelerated and supercharged out of necessity, and the fact that artists are no longer allowed to perform live and fans cannot come together to watch live shows, this study shows that there's a good chance that live streaming will stick around and continue to grow after even live shows come back. In the meantime, that is encouraging for artists and promoters who have kind of been forced to, in many ways, focus on adding production value and finding creative new ways to create virtual performances for people. Pandora co-founder Tim Westergreen estimated that the current value of the business is at around $1 billion, with the potential to grow to the tens of billions within 3 years. So he sees live streaming as not only a temporary replacement for touring, but actually an expansion that allows fans to widely access different types of shows. And of course, this is true. We've seen this across different variations of virtual shows from festivals or artists, where people from around the world are actually able to buy tickets and attend the same event Of course, this is different than when physically you need to be in a certain city to attend a show that is a part of a worldwide tour where an artist is traveling all the time in order to reach their different fans around the world. He estimates that the market could grow to value 5 or even 10 times more than the roughly $30 billion pre-pandemic live concert business. So we've seen successes like this with Tomorrowland, for example, the virtual festival, which pulled in over 1 million viewers and sold tickets for around €12. They actually built 8 different virtual stages where, as an attendee, you could click around the virtual map and see different types of artists of different genres in the same way that a festival stage has certain genres of artists on each stage. They recorded 60 different artist sets in different studios they built around the world because they created a sort of virtual environment for their shows. There have been different iterations of this as well, and another successful example is Digital Mirage, which was a collaboration between the YouTube channel Proximity, Brownies and Lemonade, and the management company Keel. 51 artists performed over 3 different days and raised over $300,000 for the Sweet Relief Musicians Fund. They generated over 1.1 million attendees, and of course their approach was different in that artists pre-recorded different types of sets. There was no virtual element involved, but artists were encouraged to kind of become creative and record in fun spaces or, whatever matched their aesthetic or what they were going for. And it was very exciting and fun to see what different artists kind of brought to the table. Of course, there's still plenty of room to grow. Artists and brands are trying new things all the time. We've seen different variety, like artists trying to put on shows in Minecraft, in different gaming platforms, and then of course exploring different versions of virtual performances. So it's promising to hear that the study suggests that live streams will become an essential part of the music industry. So it is worth it to put in creativity and production as an artist and as an artist team. And fans will continue to kind of see these different explorations as we go along. And that is the news for this week on the Newsfloor. Stick around, we're going straight into tracks right after this. We have arrived at the Hub, which is the Newsfloor section where we go over the best releases and top tracks of the week. We always start with the Beatport number 1, which this week goes to Fur from Endor, who is a Brighton DJ who has returned to Defected with a chart-topping new tune called Fur. It is a cheeky hat tip to the instantly recognizable sample of Beethoven's Symphony number 25, which we know probably better as For Elise, also known as the song that people kind of know how to play on the piano. I know I can play maybe the first few notes, but it is a great song, of course. The track is a bit of a tech house take with a big bass line. Check it out now. For Pete Tong's essential new tune, we have a remix from Marcus Vogel and Adam Port. They have grabbed hold of Positive, which is an original track off of Hot Chip's 2019 album called A Bath Full of Ecstasy. Pete Tong explained that he was so impressed by the track that he'd had to do a bit of a reshuffle to make sure that it got on his show last week. So it's a really good one. It's super hypnotic and it is out now on Domino. We are going to listen right now.
Despised, contaminated, defeated, isolated. People look at you, a puzzle, not a clue, to be solved by only you, as if you were not real, as if you...
For the Newsfloor track of the week, of course I had to pick Bicep's brand new tune called Apricots. It is coming from their new album called Isles, which is coming in January of 2021 and will serve as the follow-up to their self-titled album in 2017. Last week we received Apricots, which is the follow-up for the duo's first single, which was called Atlas. Apricots is dreamy, synthy, and actually samples Malawian singers and a Bulgarian vocal troupe, which explains the curious vocals that you'll hear in a little bit. The album is meant as the home listening version of a set of songs that will evolve over time across their live sets, and has also been influenced by the diverse sounds of the cultures and languages that the two experienced while living in London. So now we're going to listen to Apricots from Bicep. For the Newsfloor pick of the week, we are diving into Coloring Lessons Volume 1, which is the first compilation from Coloring Lessons, the New York crew, started by Brandon Weems and Craig Handfield, who are best known for their monthly parties and regular slots on the Lot Radio. They focus on house, disco, jazz, and soul, and embrace the musical elements of their black and brown ancestors. And they've now launched their own label by the same name and are kicking things off with the compilation. So we got a few words from them, so let's check it out now.
Yo, what up? This is Craig.
This is Brandon. We go by Muscle Cars. We're two New York-based producers and DJs, and we run Coloring Lessons.
Word. And Coloring Lessons is a party that we've been throwing for the past 2 or so years. It's also our radio show, and most recently, our record label. And what we've been doing is just using it as a tool to uplift our community and bring a dance music scene in New York City back to what it was in its golden era.
Our first release on the label is called Coloring Lessons Volume 1. It's a compilation featuring 16 artists. All of them have been affiliated with either the radio show or the party in some way, and we're really excited for you guys to hear it.
Word.
Every week on the circuit, I catch up with people from around the world of rave that you need to hear from, and this week is no exception. I spoke with Patrick Whalen, who is the National Director of We Make Events in North America and also the CEO of Backstage Productions. We got to speak a little bit about what exactly is We Make Events. You might have seen or heard about them on Instagram when there was a Red Alert Day, which took over my feeds of venues that were lit up red to alert people and acknowledge that the nightlife industry needs help. We need to ask our governments to take action. So I spoke with Patrick to learn a little bit more about the organization and how we can help. Hey, Patrick, thank you so much for joining us this week. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I'm really excited to have you on the show here at the Newsfloor, not only because you are the National Director of We Make Events here in North America, but also because this week in particular has felt like such a peak moment with all of the conversation around the nightlife industry, not only here in North America, but, all around the world. On the show here, we've been talking a lot about what's been going on over in the UK and the kind of response and resistance from the government on that side. Yeah, definitely worthy of shaking our heads. So it might be best, I guess, to give you the floor to introduce, what is We Make Events for those who might not be familiar.
Sure.
Yeah.
Really quick, We Make Events started in the UK, and we sort of thought, why don't we do that here, and why aren't we doing anything? And so it turned from a happy hour Zoom call that we do every week with production people to let's light up buildings red, and let's get celebrities to do public service announcements, and let's try and get Washington aware that we need the Restart Act passed, and we really need this money. And we're still working on that. But the success rate was massive, and we had a couple hundred celebrities doing PSAs, and we thought we'd maybe do 1,500 buildings. I think we did right around 3,000 to 4,000. So yeah, it was an all hands on deck effort, and it was absolutely amazing to be a part of.
Yeah, I remember on social media, that was kind of the first moment when I learned about it. I think it was called the Red Alert Day, right?
Yep.
When the buildings lit up red and people were posting it on social media, talking about just really bringing awareness to the situation. And, as you said, there's a lot of celebrities and big people, pretty much every artist, any artist that you love who's performing is affected by this, and their teams are affected by it. And we've definitely been seeing that over in the UK, right? With the government having this resistance and telling even people in the nightlife and live events industry to find new work or look to.
Well, it was shocking. I mean,
themselves.
yesterday the Twitter announcements was, we'll let them die. Why would we pump life into them anyway? They're just going to die anywhere, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing here, but
right.
I was shocked when I heard that. I mean, I don't think any other industry that I know of has been like, well, we'll let it go. It's going to die anyway. I mean, that was just absolutely appalling. And I hope it doesn't happen here.
Right. It feels like such the opposite approach, right? It's like we understand, of course, there's a difference between essential workers who are, at the front lines like health workers, but you can't really say that culture is something that you can just toss aside. And especially in a time when there's no kind of foreseeable return yet, those people are kind of the ones that need the support most. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, entertainment's, not that it's essential, but, entertainment's what brings us joy, what gets us out of our normal everyday world and life. And it's our escape, whether it be live music or a great film or a TV show. And so, I understand that we don't maybe have the same power in Washington that somebody that has massive lobbyists behind them does. But we do have massive power to entertain you, because your kids and your family and you have all been a part of what we do, no matter what you want to do. I mean, if you're watching the news, one of us is part of that. If you're watching a concert, we're the ones that are doing it. Right. So we're the secret, quiet people that nobody talks about.
I know, the underrated folk in the back who are doing it all, making it all happen. And I think my question for you is, watching what's going on in the UK and kind of, I feel like we're almost watching like a parallel universe, or maybe like something that could happen to us a few steps ahead. What do you think that we should be taking away or learning and hopefully bringing back here in North America and in the US specifically?
Well, I think the takeaway is that we need support, and whether the government wants to believe it or not. And that's the whole reason we started We Make Events, was to have a little bit louder voice in Washington and to be a little bit more powerful. And I think that, not that the UK hasn't done that, but for the government to literally in Europe to some degree, to turn their back on the people that keep them entertained was quite shocking. I hope that our government can put some sort of differences aside and help the people that need it most, because we were the first to close and we're the last to start back up, period. And without government support, there's going to be, I don't know what half of the 3/4 of these people are going to do. And I feel bad for each and every one of them. And I talk to a lot of them, and they're struggling.
Yeah, I think especially in the US, the news about Trump kind of deciding to not bring up a stimulus bill definitely hit a lot of people just who were maybe, they're still holding on. It's been how many months now of no work, but it's definitely going to be a tough few months ahead.
Yeah. And the CARES Act ended July 31st. And, we kind of knew it was going to be an uphill battle, but we were shocked that it was going to take as long as it did. And I think that that's really put a lot of people in an ugly position, along with the PPP. There's a lot of companies that were using that money to help their employees, and subsidize and bring them back in. And now they can't do that. So they're furloughing them. And that's a real problem. And this problem isn't going to go away, and it's going to grow exponentially once we hit January 1st.
Right. So, with all this being said, I think people who are watching are likely a mix of people who are fans of music, who are the
Yep.
ones who were formerly ticket buyers, who are excited about watching people perform live, and then also maybe people who work in the industry who want to support, the folks that are out of work right now. What would you recommend them to do? Are there any actions they could be
Simple
taking?
question. That's the best question of the night.
Yes.
The question is, if you want to help us, please write your senators, write your House of Representatives, write the president, and let them know that you need to support Restart Act and you need to support the entertainment industry. It's simple.
So simple.
Any outreach that you can do that says, we make events or help, the entertainment industry, any of that, we would thank you 1,000 times for, because that's the most way you can help us. I mean, we're not going to get any kind of, Live Aid concert in the next couple of weeks to support all of us. There's just too many of us. But what we do need is your support, writing, pen and paper, email. And I mean, that would be so helpful and go so far for us.
Fantastic. I mean, I love a step that's as simple as that. We're going to drop some links here in the chat so that people know where to find out more about We Make Events, and encourage people to send those letters and reach out to those folks, because we need you guys. The music industry needs you guys. And I look forward to the time when we can be celebrating in person, listening, maybe shouting at each other over some really loud music, hopefully.
Well, we miss seeing all of you. There is nothing better. And the reason why we do this is, you never know how hard we work. You never know what we went through to get to that day, to get to that moment when the artist or the film reel plays, or just the trials and tribulations of our daily job. That's our job, and to keep that quiet. Your job is to show us you appreciate it by smiling, by yelling, by dancing, by having a great time. That means the world to us, and that's what keeps us motivated to keep doing this every day.
And what a beautiful sentiment that is. So thank you so much, Patrick. And I wish you guys all the best, and we'll be supporting you all the way.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too. Every week, our friends over at Stream Informer give us a couple streams that you might have missed last week that are worth rechecking out. And then, of course, a couple to put on your calendar for this upcoming week. Tunes that you will love, artists that you will love. Let's start with a recap from the past week in streaming. Last Tuesday, HOR Berlin had the pleasure of hosting a special back-to-back performance with Helena Hoff and LFT. Of course, most haven't seen these two DJing together. It was a very special pairing, an all-vinyl set, which was a smash. Rugged electro flavors and intense techno. The 2-hour set can be now found for restreaming on the HOR Berlin page on YouTube, so go check that out if you're in the mood for some heavy techno. There's a lot to look forward to this week, of course, as well. The first is Detroit staple from Shigeto, who will continue his residency on the Lot Radio. That takes place on Friday, October 16th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. He's known, to showcase a variety of different styles, from classic hip-hop to soulful funk to deep house. It's always a really fun time, and sometimes he even brings along some special guests, so who knows? There might be more coming up this week. And then on Saturday, Rhythm Nation San Diego is hosting their second edition of the Deeper End Virtual Festival. They're bringing together a collection of house heroes this time. NDATL label boss Kai Aus, along with Detroit's own Lady Monix and New York's James Duncan. Lots and lots more artists signed on as well. You can lock into that session at 1 p.m. Pacific time on the Rhythm Nation San Diego Twitch page. A big thank you to our friends at Stream Informer for that. You can follow them on Instagram and Facebook for daily stream highlights and stream schedules, so go check them out. This week on The Catch Up, I caught up with Michael Brunn, who is an incredible Haitian DJ and producer who has been making music that has captured people on the dance floor for years. He also has pulled from all different kinds of world music and definitely has been keeping that up as of late, working with the likes of J Balvin, receiving Latin Grammy nominations. It's been a super exciting time for him, so I caught up with him earlier this week to find out more about what's going on in his life. Hey Michael, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. I was just saying you look really tan. Apparently you've been getting some sun through all this quarantine, which is a good sign.
Yeah, trying my best. I've been in Brooklyn this whole time, so a lot of rooftop.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. And I know that, there's so much I want to ask you about because you've been doing so much over the past few months, which is exciting to hear of an artist who's kind of like capturing the moment. The first thing I want to say is congratulations. 3 Latin Grammy nominations for your recent work with J Balvin, which is kind of just amazing. Like, how do you feel about that?
Thank you so much. It's still surreal to be honest, because
I bet.
it happened. It was a complete surprise. J Balvin had told me when we started working on his album that this was going to be, you're going to get your nominations from this. So I
Yeah.
guess he knew since before,
He
but
knew. He saw into the
yeah,
future and he saw it.
yeah. But I'm really grateful to have been part of it.
Yeah, so tell me, I want to hear about the experience of working with him. How did you come into contact with him, really?
So we were connected through a mutual friend. Her name is Marissa at Apple Music, and at the time I was working on a song called Bayo that was an anthem for what Haitian music sounded like to me and like Haitian culture.
Hmm.
And so I'd done a version in Haiti with some of my favorite Haitian artists, Strong G, J Perry, and Baki. And the idea was that I wanted to take that song and then make it a global song by incorporating somebody on an international level. And J
Right.
Balvin was the artist that I was thinking of. So Marissa connected us. He was so awesome. Loved the song from the first like listen, and we ended up doing that for the World Cup, which was already crazy enough. But
So
he,
crazy.
yeah, it was wild. He ended up inviting me on tour, and then eventually we ended up working on this album. So it's been like 3 years of pretty much nonstop work and a lot
Yeah.
of a lot of fun.
That's so amazing to hear because that's something that I always appreciated about your career is you've been so great about kind of pulling from your own background with Haitian music and culture and then so easily kind of translating it over to other types of world sounds in a way. Like I know you've worked with artists who are in the Afrobeat space and now with J
Mhm.
Balvin, like that's so awesome and so cool. So another thing that you kind of talked about, the Bayo tour that you did, is another really exciting part. I know that earlier this year you actually did a digital tour, which is also a super unique and cool idea. For those who don't know, it was a geo-fenced kind of tour where you allowed people who were in Chicago, LA, and Miami, right,
Yeah.
to attend. So tell me a little bit about that, how that idea came to you, and I guess what's your approach now in this kind of COVID-19 pandemic world of heading into live streams and a new version of shows?
So I think a lot of people who have been stuck at home during this thing, especially artists, have tried to find ways to continue their careers.
Hmm.
And I know that many artists do actually have their studios at home, but for a lot of people, their performances were usually outside, so they either rented equipment or it was pretty difficult to set something up at home. I was really lucky that I actually had some gear in my apartment, so I was able to start doing live streams pretty soon after all the lockdowns started, and they went really well. So I was doing it on IG Live and Facebook Live, and was getting a few thousand people tuning in every time. And then based off of that, when I realized around April, May that shows probably aren't going to come back anytime soon, I had to actually postpone the bio show, the really this like massive festival show I was about to put on in May.
Right.
And the idea was to take that experience that was very much about feeling like you're in a venue or like at least with other people
Hmm.
and translating it into the live streams that I was doing for the last few months. And yeah, Bacardi ended up being a partner on this, and AWOL as well, who I distribute my label through. And it was just like a perfect match. Everything ended up working out great. We built up this whole stage at a venue out here, LPR in New York, and we're able to live stream it, get all these people involved. Like I had a lot of really cool guests that came through. Kalo was one of them. Shirazi was another one. Paul Bowmore, and these are all artists that I've worked with in the past. So
Right.
yeah, it went really well. It was super fun. It was the closest thing to actually playing a show, and I hope that that model will at least give artists another option of monetizing their live streams, because I know it's tough right now. Like nobody's making income any other way, and free shows are great, but then I think there's the occasion where you can actually do something like this.
Yeah, you bring up so many good points. I think I've heard from so many artists about feeling the not only difficulties of, like you mentioned, like sometimes people don't have the equipment on hand and it's expensive to have it all at home, but then also to go to the next level and make it feel like an immersive experience in the same way that it felt when we walked into a real life venue. But it sounds like you were able to achieve that, which is awesome. And I'm sure your fans were so excited about that. It's hard. It's hard. All the live streams are great, but it is nice to see like the extra effort come into a show like that.
For sure.
Um, So I know that that's not all for you. You actually have a new track that came out today, Wednesday. We're saying today.
Okay, yeah,
It came out today with your friend and previous collaborator Shirazi. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
that is, yeah.
Yeah, so I know you guys have worked together, and I love the track Soweto that you guys had before. What's the story behind this new song, and tell me a little bit about it.
So we started working on follow-up music to Soweto pretty much as soon as Soweto actually dropped. And Shirazi has ended up becoming like one of my really good friends. And I think that working with him is a lot of fun because he's so quick when he comes
Hmm.
up with ideas that we end up having too many basically to work with at any one time.
Hmm.
And this song "Love Me Suffer" that we did was around the end of last year. We had come up with the concept, and I had really started producing music that was very heavily influenced by R&B because it was something that I always loved, but I felt like I didn't know exactly where I wanted to take it yet.
Hmm.
And that was like actually one of the first songs on my new project that I felt like encapsulated the combination of classic R&B sounds, African and Caribbean sounds, and then electronic elements too. So Shirazi, I feel like he's from Benin, but he's grown up around the world. He lives in New York, and he has a really great ear for all of those genres. And what he ended up doing with this and with Soweto was like so amazing, and I'm really like super pumped about the way this turned out.
Yeah, it sounds like a good collaborator for you. I'm sure you guys gel so well in the studio, bouncing back ideas. Is there a story behind the name? The name Love Me Sufa, is that a word that has a special meaning to it?
So it's Shirazi loves telling stories in his music, and this song is like it's a romantic song, but it's also about like the difficulties that can happen in romance and the difficulties that can happen when you really do love somebody. And it's actually it's spelled Suffa, but it's actually "Love Me Suffer." So it's like when you love somebody and it
Right.
hurts in the
Right.
process. So that's really what he's singing about in the song, and he incorporates Yoruba in it, which is like Nigerian pidgin, and he's just like
Wow.
his storytelling in this is two different languages and just takes it many different places, which that's another reason why I love working with him. Is not his voice is amazing, but also the way he approaches lyrics, really cool.
Amazing. Well, we're going to play a little bit of that track right after this interview. So hopefully listeners who are curious now about the track will also stay tuned for it. But
Yeah.
thank you, Michael, for joining us. And I wish you all the best with all the productive and amazing things you're working on. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Looking for ways to go deeper, catching a case of your fever. You said you don't know how to ride this way. You've never ever felt this way. It feels too good to say. I ain't gotta run away. I'm gonna love you through the pain. Don't play with me, you know I'm the one that you love to hate. You let me go, you never know. You never know. Oh, make you love, make you love, make you love me. Save me, baby, love me suffer. Make you love, make you love, make you love. Save me, baby, love me suffer. Running a place in denial. Give me your heart, make it final. Turn off the lights to some light no.
Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of the Newsfloor. My name is Valerie Lee, and I'm your host. Every single week, we are going to be here Wednesdays, 12 noon Pacific time. Hopefully you know it by now, but if you don't, that's your reminder. You can also get automatic reminders if you follow the Lost Resort page here on Twitch. Even better if you can subscribe. We love you guys. We want you guys to be here every single week. Please continue to share your thoughts with us. We love hearing about your opinions, your thoughts on the news, the interviews, the content, the subjects that we are covering here. If you love the Newsfloor, if you want to stay up to date with us, even when we're not live, you can follow us at the Newsfloor on Instagram and Twitter. I am also at Valerie ___ Lee if you want to catch me on the social media pages. Thank you again for joining us. We will be here again next week. There's some awesome programming coming up on Lost Resort. Lost Resort with Toki Monster happens, Schmoozin' with Soul Clap, and then of course Newsfloor right here on Wednesdays. I will see you guys again next week. Hope you guys have a good week.